morning, Daily Dragons. Welcome back to part 2 of our writing conventions lesson. Today we're going to be looking at commas and quotations. So for commas, we want to make sure we use a comma to separate words in a list. We've done this in class quite a bit. When you have a list of items and you want to put them together into a sentence structure, you're going to use a comma between each item. Okay, so in this sentence I have she likes to eat pizza, comma, berries, comma, and ice cream. That tells us that they are separate parts. You're also going to use them to separate quoted parts. So in my quoted sentence here, which we'll be talking about quotations in a second, but in my quoted sentence I have I like to swim, comma, said Meg. The comma allows me to continue the sentence and mark who said it or who the quote was made by. Sometimes you'll have different punctuation. If you're asking a question, the comma would be replaced by a question mark. Or if this is an exclamation, then it would be replaced by an exclamation mark. Otherwise, we are going to be using a comma inside of our quotation. So it's going to come right before the final quotation mark. You'll also use commas to separate dates. For my example, I have May 1st, May 1, 2020. The reason the comma is here is to separate these numbers. So I know that this is the day of the month and this is the year. There are other ways that we use commas, but this is what we're going to be focusing on for our writing this week. The next thing is quotations. Now, quotations mark an exact statement, so something that someone said specifically. So in my sentence, I have, I didn't mean to break the window, sighed Milo. So I want to make sure that I quote these words. This is what my character in my story or the person who I'm writing about said exactly. Okay, and so this quotations give us a chance to have our characters using dialogue. It provides more interest and it also gives them a different voice. It helps us to understand what kind of things they might say and how they might say them. So quotation marks are going to mark an exact statement. So let me show you some examples in my writing that I have this morning. And I'm going to read it through first and then we will go through and look for our commas and our quotations. Okay, so let's start at the top. Miles was getting ready for the big game. I hope I didn't forget anything, Miles said to his pet hamster Todd. Todd got on his wheel and started running. Miles put his glove, mitt, uniform, and shoes into his bag. He grabbed it and went to the front door. Mom, I'm ready to go, said Miles. Go where? Asked his mom. To the game, said Miles excitedly. Your game is on April 22nd, 2020. Not today, said his mom. Oh, man, whined Miles as he slumped into the chair by the door. So let's go through and find some examples of our commas and our quotations. So first we're going to start with our first sentence. This is exactly what Miles is saying. Now, he's not saying it to a person. He's talking to his hamster, but these are the words that came out of his mouth. So we're going to have quotations, and the quotation mark, your ending quotation mark, goes after your punctuation. Okay, so here's our comma that we talked about up here. So we have our comma. Okay, that is going to separate the quoted part. Miles said to his pet hamster Todd. Todd got on his wheel and started running. Miles put his glove, and here's our list. So we have glove, there's our comma, mitt, comma, uniform, comma, and shoes into his bag. So this is separating the things that he put in his bag. It would be no different than making a list, but it's putting it in a sentence form. So we're going to continue on. He grabbed it and went to the front door, and here's another quote. Mom, I'm ready to go, said Miles. Now in this one we used an exclamation mark because he's very excited about what he's saying. That gives us more information about his voice. But we're going to have those quotation marks here. Final quotation mark goes outside of that punctuation, and then we have who stated it. So that's a quote. Go where? Asked his mom. So here we have again, this is his mom's statement. So this is dialogue. So we have quotes that are going back and forth. So Miles said something, then his mom said something. But we're making sure to use the quotation marks and also write who said it or how they said it afterwards, preceding our quotation, so that we know who's talking, right? It's important to know the character that's talking. Here we go again. Miles is responding. To the game, said Miles excitedly. Now, I could change this punctuation because this is excitedly. This could be an exclamation point, but I just put a comma. But we're still following that comma with that final quotation mark. You have to open your statement, right? Open the dialogue and close what they're saying with those quotation marks. So you have to make sure you have one at the beginning and one at the end. Here's another quote. Now it's Mom talking. Your game is on April 22nd, 2020. Not today, said his mom. Now here is our date. And we have our comma there to separate the day of the month and the year. We also have our quotes. We have a starting quote, a final quote, and that final quote being after the punctuation. And our last quote. Oh, man, whined Miles as he slumped into the chair by the door. And here's our comma here, okay, to separate that quote. So what we're doing with the dialogue is going to bring a lot more interest to your writing. So it allows your characters to talk, which makes it more exciting for your reader. Your reader feels like they're in on the conversation. So it's an important thing to do. Practice this in your writing this week. And if you have any questions, leave a comment below.